Eriksens collapse at Euro 2020 remembered as 45-minute horror show. In the moments after Christian Eriksen's collapse during Denmark's opening game of Euro 2020, a father paced around St. Jacob's Plads, a quaint square from where, beyond a church and some old floodlights, you can see Parken Stadium. Peter Mondrup had left his family apartment above the square and was now pondering the imponderable. "I was mentally preparing how to tell my kids that Christian had died," says the 45-year-old, whose youngest boy is 9. "How I can inform them what has happened to their hero. How can I tell them what they witnessed had the worst possible outcome?" Half an hour earlier, he and his friend Lars Janus and their families were in front of the television when Eriksen, just a few hundred yards away, had stumbled and fallen to the turf. He had suffered a cardiac arrest. "At first we smiled, it looked like he had tripped," says Peter. "Then you realize something is seriously wrong, it was in his eyes. Right away I sent my youngest children out of the room, I wanted to protect them. The older children stayed. We all had tears in our eyes. You cannot underestimate how popular Christian is here." Unlike in the UK, Danish television cut away from the images of Eriksen being treated immediately after the horror of the initial chest compressions. Peter and Lars came down to the square in search of news. Sportsmail met with them this week in the garden of the PS Bar and Grill in St. Jacob's Plads. From here, earlier on that sunny Saturday afternoon of June 12, the buzz of happiness and anticipation could be heard in Peter's apartment. "So what scene did the friends find shortly after 7 p.m. "Silence," says Lars. "The only thing you could hear was the big television screen in here. It was surreal. The Eriksen shirts everywhere made it all the more shocking. So many people, so little noise." For Peter, the image will never leave him. Big men, they were crying all around us, completely crying. To have seen the heart massage, arg, it was not good, it was devastating. It confirmed what we feared. But then there was no update, nothing. Honestly, says Lars. We thought he was dead, we thought he was completely gone. If they knew he was alive, when he finally left the stadium, they should have told us on national TV, it was wrong, that they did not. Peter disagrees. But they did not want to give false hope. When he was brought away with the white sheets around him, I said to Lars, he is definitely not awake. If he is alive, why not show him? My hopes were really low. The longer time went on with no good news, it was getting worse and worse. Just yards away, and serving at the outdoor bar was Nathan Rowe, who is originally from Brighton. It went from a noisy crowd to being able to hear a penny drop, says the 31-year-old. Just like that, it was complete silence. Everyone was grabbing their mouths. I was just stood here, no one bought any drinks. People walked away, they could not watch. Everyone was checking their phones. There was confusion. A short distance from here down Østerbrogade, fans in the bars around Triangle St. Metro would have witnessed the sobering sight of the ambulance taking Eriksen to Rikshospitalet, just 1 kilometer from the stadium. Unbeknown to them, he was conscious. Finally, an hour after Eriksen had collapsed, a message was displayed on screen by the national broadcaster. He was alive and stable in hospital. I remember the sound, a massive intake of air as the news appeared, and then cheering and clapping, says Nathan. It was like we'd been in a horror movie before that. I was suddenly busy again, there was just sheer relief. Then came confirmation that the game against Finland would continue. Denmark, a team and a nation in a state of shock, duly lost 1-0. There was a lot of upset and anger at being made to play, says Nathan. We were hosting around 250 people who went to the game. Only around 30 came back afterwards. No one wanted to drink. That night was eerie. But from the horror came hope and unity in Denmark and beyond. We felt the whole world come together, says Peter. Sometimes, we realize we are more alike than we would normally think. We have Brexit and our differences, but when you see something like that, everyone is the same, everything else disappears. Denmark made it to semi-finals, only to lose to England at Wembley. They returned to Parken for the first time on Wednesday, when they beat Scotland 2-0 in front of a sell-out crowd. To be there, and in Copenhagen before and after the game was to experience an uplifting connection between players and public. Long after full time, the team, hand in hand, were still saluting all four corners of the ground. They have got it right here. The beer flows, but there is no menace. You feel safe and welcome. There are women, children, old and young, a truly happy vibe in a place that, for a short while in June, threatened to be the scene of eternal sorrow. They have an unofficial code of conduct in Denmark called Jante Law, which encourages humility and, in turn, collectivism. Eriksen has that, says Lars, it is why he is so loved. But they all do. Simon Kjær, Kasper Schmeichel, these guys are national heroes. What happened to Christian? Reinforce the support for the national team. We saw how they protected him on the field. There is special respect for those players. I was in the stadium for the Russia game, won 4-1 to qualify for second round. It was, without doubt, the most emotional match I ever saw. There is new love for the team, a more powerful support. Those nights at Parken right now, they are magical.